So let's jump into the managed versus unmanaged for a second. I think this is when I'm
Sure.
training new staff, this is one of the more confusing. When I'm talking to somebody in general, the first question they ask me is why managed? And so let's start with the simplest question. When is unmanaged acceptable? When is unmanaged more than enough?
So unmanaged for me is honestly, if we're doing just a small deployment, if we're looking, for residential automation, for example, let's say, we've got, automated blinds or even lighting now in residential homes and stuff, and even commercial buildings can actually be powered by PoE or PoE plus, things that are just designed to do intended functions. So there's no real networking besides just sending a message of like on off, or things like that, and obviously providing power. Very, very simplistic needs, perfect for unmanaged switches. Now with managed, I mean, shoot, we can go really all over the place with this because we have certain categories of managed switches depending on the actual need. If we're doing, a commercial deployment of any kind, we always stress setting up a VLAN, so a virtual local area network. That way we can pretty much partition our solution on the same network, but kind of keep it behind an invisible wall per se to kind of keep prying eyes or sticky fingers from touching it too much. Great for access control, great for surveillance, great for gate controllers and all that type of stuff. It's a great way that installers can protect their customer solution to make sure that they can improve upon its just operability and just making sure that things work as fluid as they should. We can go one step further and focus on like the IT professionals and stuff like that. A lot of these larger companies, Fortune 500s, data centers, schools, hospitals, state and local governments, and stuff like that, they generally have an IT team on site that actually manages everything and supports the day-to-day needs of their colleagues and stuff like that as well. They generally lean on wanting something that's more like layer two. That gives them the utmost control of the network. They can control what the information is doing, where the traffic is going. They also have the ability of limiting traffic, limiting user access to certain things. They can control the power to the port. Literally anything that they would want that switch to do within reason, they would be able to do it, which is great. So it really just kind of depends on what we're doing, really what the scope of work is. We obviously can advocate for just something like setting up a VLAN. But if we have a certain schedule, we can't set schedules on an unmanaged switch. We can't intervene at all other than just unplugging it from the wall or just plugging the device directly out from the RJ45 port. Whereas if we were to go with like a managed switch, we have the ability of going in there, and setting a schedule. We can set a reboot schedule every week at the end of the day, on the last day of work outside of office hours. So the whole system shuts itself down and boots itself right back up. So we have a fresh reboot and hopefully all the devices come back online. Additionally, once we start stepping into managed switches and managed devices, we now get the benefit of proactive features kind of working for us rather than against us. So all of our managed switches have the ability, out of the box, to start pinging linked devices to make sure that they're connected. That's critical because obviously, what's the last thing we want when a device is connected into any switch? We don't want it to go down, but if it does go down, we want to know about it. But also,
Right.
we want to be safeguarded knowing that the switch is going to do its part to try and bring that device back online before an actual human needs to intervene, and maybe actually dig a little deeper to see if there's an issue with the device or the device that it's connected into. Um, those are all measures that we've built into all of our managed switches, that really just kind of further add to the value, that our professionals in the market and our dealers alike are able to offer to their customers.